With us now on the phone to talk about all of this is Jeff Matthews, an investment manager, a shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway for years, and author of Pilgrimage to Warren Buffett's Omaha. Jeff, seriously, what is going on at Berkshire Hathaway? This is a company that we trusted because it seemed to embody everything that was right about thorny issues like compensation and business ethics and incentives and conflicts of interest. Warren Buffett's $100,000 salary, his entire net worth tied up in Berkshire Hathaway shares. Now we find out that insiders like Charlie Munger and David Sokol are buying and selling shares of companies that Berkshire ends up taking investments in.
Well, Erik, I think big picture you're seeing kind of the end of this era where Berkshire does things its way, according to Buffett's very basic and very honorable credo, which is lose money for the firm and I will be understanding, lose one shred of our reputation and I'll be ruthless. And that's how he's tried to run things. And it doesn't always work when you're running a couple $100 billion company with more than 250,000 employees.
So are you saying, Jeff, that Berkshire has become too big for Warren Buffett to run it the way he has for the past 45 years?
Absolutely. I think
really?
I think big picture that he's not going to have to change the way he buys company. He's not going to have to change the way he manages his managers, which in the sense of letting them run their businesses. But as far as just having 21 people at the home office, which he loves to highlight, and how low an overhead operation they run, that's probably going to change. There's probably, for one thing, going to be a compliance department.
So we recognize that Warren Buffett isn't, after all, superhuman. He's an incredible investor. Everybody acknowledges that. But as you point out, it's pretty difficult to run 200,000 people with a team of maybe just 25 around you. Here's a more important question, perhaps. As a result of what we've seen, what we've learned, do we maybe trust Warren Buffett a little bit less than we did 2 weeks ago?
Personally, I would say no, in the sense of trusting him to do the right thing himself. I think as far as a lapse of judgment goes, I think there is a lapse of judgment here. And perhaps maybe he's getting a little bit older and not as sharp. I think the lines here are pretty clear. What happened, in my view, with Sokol, trading on information that the way he traded was, in my view, out of line. And I want to make a distinction. You mentioned Munger's investment in BYD before Berkshire bought it. There's no comparison, in my view, between the two. They're not analogous. I know Sokol tried to defend himself by saying, well, Charlie Munger did it. But Munger did it the right way. Munger recused himself from the discussions of BYD. He let David Sokol actually do the due diligence. He did not go to China himself to look at car companies for Berkshire, find one he liked, buy it for his own account, and then pitch Warren Buffett on the deal. That's not how this happened. He had a long-standing, his children actually, through an investment manager, had a long-standing investment in BYD. Munger got excited about it and said, you know, Warren, you really should look at this. But he sent Sokol to do the due diligence, and he stepped away. He recused himself, and that's exactly how it should have gone down.
But, you know, Jeff, the reality is, and I take your point, not everybody is going to look at it that way. They look at these two situations as analogous to each other, and they wonder to themselves, and here's my next question to you, what is going to have to change at Berkshire Hathaway if Warren Buffett is perhaps too old, if he's not as sharp as you point out? Who's going to take over? What's the strategy going to be? You know, David Sokol was being groomed as the heir apparent. Maybe Ajit Jain is the next guy, but does the Berkshire shareholder community going to have confidence in the up-and-comers at Berkshire now that we've learned these things about people like David Sokol?
Well, that's a great question. I think there will need to be some vetting of exactly what he did and how long if he had done this in other ways. Was this a very isolated incident? Was this a very minor breakdown, or is there a more general breakdown? My sense is it was more an issue of an individual rather than a rampant process whereby people were just violating a code of ethics right and left.
You know, I'm just afraid we're going to have to go. It's a conversation we need to continue. Jeff Matthews, an investment manager, longtime shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway, and author of The Pilgrimage to Warren Buffett's Omaha.